This last week, I played in my first ever Pokemon World Championships in Honolulu, Hawaii, and I'm gonna give an honest review on my entire experience. And hopefully, this will give a good idea of what you can expect if you're looking to attend any Pokemon World Championships in the future. So starting out, we're gonna talk about the location. Obviously, this year in 2024, the Pokemon World Championships was held in Honolulu, Hawaii. Now, with last year's Worlds being in Yokohama, Japan, following up that was gonna be very, very tough from the Pokemon Company. And I think choosing Hawaii was absolutely fantastic. Hawaii is already a very big tourist destination, so that made this a really accessible venue to hold the 2024 World Championships. Now, being World Championships, you know that it's probably going to be a distance for most people to have to travel to this event. And for me, being in Australia, this was actually reasonably affordable to travel to. The flight time was only around about 10 hours, and the time difference was 20 hours, which is pretty much just a 4-hour difference. However, I know for a lot of people, Hawaii is super out of the way. A lot of people that traveled from the European regions spent a whole lot to be at this venue, and I would say that a majority of people, this would have been more expensive to travel to than obviously going to a World Championship that was on the mainland of America. Now, whilst being pretty expensive for most people to get to, the location was beautiful. Hawaii's got a fantastic general aesthetic that I think transferred very well into Pokemon, considering that we have an entire generation and region that is literally based on Hawaii. So a lot of that stuff blended very nicely into this World Championships. Now, because Hawaii is a very popular tourist destination, getting accommodation was not a challenge at all. There was plenty of accommodation, all really close to the venue as well. I didn't know anybody that even left it to the last minute that was struggling to find a place to stay. However, pretty much everywhere you stayed was rather expensive, but that was pretty on par for Hawaii in general, as not only the accommodation was really expensive, but the food was also very expensive as well. Now, being from Australia, we do not have a tipping culture, so when going to purchase food over in Hawaii, not only were we paying about 150 to 200% what we would normally be paying for food over here, we're also paying 15 to 25% extra for tips over in Hawaii. Now, luckily for me, I pretty much only eat one meal a day whenever I'm at Pokemon events. I'll spend the entire day doing different activities, and that will be enough just to tide me over until I have a big dinner. So it wasn't too bad, as usually I was probably on average spending around about $30 USD every single day on food, and all of the food that I did have was amazing. Trying like a Philly cheesesteak for the first time, going to Japanese barbecue places as well was really cool, and all in very close proximity to the event as well. And finally, talking about the location, I want to talk about how well Pokemon integrated itself into this space. Now, overall, the Pokemon World Championships spanned around about 4 to 5 blocks of Honolulu. There was the main focus, which was the event hall, and then it also spanned out to the Hilton Hotel area as well. This was really nice as it spread out a little bit of the foot traffic, and it just really immersed you in this whole Pokemon experience, which I thought was incredible. So while you had most of the activities focused in the actual event hall itself, on the walk over to the Hilton, you'd find different pop-up displays, different photo opportunities, and really amazing events as well that were featured at the Hilton, like the Play Lab, which was Learn to Play. They also had a beautiful grasslands area, which was filled with a stage, little fun games to play for mostly just the kids. But then they also had the amazing drone show, which they did also have in Yokohama. This year is featured right over the beach, so you could walk up and chill on the sand and watch the drone show, which is what we all did on the first night. And then on the second night, my mate and I, we accidentally stumbled into the drone show again. We didn't know that it was running multiple times, but because the weather was so good, it was like 30 degrees, we jumped in the lagoon and just floated there watching the drone show. The fact that you could just stumble into these different events going on felt really wonderful. So overall, the location I thought was really, really good, and I have to give it 4 out of 5 stars. I think Japan's always going to set the standard for an event location, and that's because Pokemon is so integral to their culture. But I think being a holiday destination and being a really fantastic venue, I honestly have no complaints with Hawaii being the destination for this year's World Championships. Now, after just touching on some of the different locations and events, I want to talk about the activities that also ran during this weekend at the center itself. Now, whilst I didn't get to experience most of these activities because I was a little bit too wrapped up in being a competitor this year, I just wanted to quickly share my thoughts on all the different things that you could do at the Pokemon World Championships this year. And due to this being my first ever Pokemon Worlds, I don't have any previous experience of what kind of events have been at previous Worlds besides the main events. So I want to give my raw opinions on this going into it as a first timer. And personally, I thought this World Championships was incredible. Whilst we touched on the light show, the play lab, as well as the garden area that you could go and enjoy and probably spend an entire day at the actual center itself, I did get a chance to go experience the Illustrator room, which was absolutely breathtaking. It featured the artwork from the 2024 Illustrator contest, which is something that I've followed along very closely with. And it was really cool to see some of my chosen artwork that I picked to win featured lining every single wall of this room. So that was a massive win for me. There was also a merchant hall, which was full of a couple of vendors, and it didn't look as impressive as what I've seen at different regionals and internationals, especially on the mainland in the United States. But there was a solid variety of different things. They also did a playtest of Pokemon Pocket, which I got a little quick tester of. I did have a chat with some of the developers, and they said that the product is not as far along as what personally I probably would have liked for when the app releases. As a whole, we got to experience the actual app on site, which, despite the app itself being a little bit behind schedule, actually being able to get hands-on with it early was pretty cool. There are also some really cool artist meetups, which sadly I didn't have time to go to, which I'm really devastated with, because Akira Egawa did a signing and I literally used her artwork for my Charizard deck that weekend, and I was like, damn, this sucks, because she is fantastic. But the fact that there were multiple artists in attendance and just for people to have that opportunity is amazing. You could also go visit a History of the Competitive Pokemon Worlds Museum. For people that have been to many different World Championships, I'm assuming it was a very cool trip down memory lane, checking out some of the world stuff all the way from 2004 up to this year's World Championships. And for me personally, I thought it was wicked just to see how far the Pokemon trading card games come competitively over the last 20 years. Now, one letdown for me was their side events. Now, I'm not too sure what they really could have done to actually entice me to go over and play some side events. There was a Pokemon Go Great League side event, which I didn't even know was on, and I missed, and I was so devastated. When I went over the TCG side events, there just didn't seem to be too much that caught my eye. I just know that for some of those different events, I'm not their target audience, and I don't personally enjoy it, but I think there were probably enough different events running throughout the weekend that if you were just there for side events, you would have had a fantastic weekend. The prize wall for sides looked really good. There was a really cool exclusive Honolulu playmat that you could have picked up, and some deck boxes and other different things. But overall, the prize wall is going to have something for everybody, and this year seemed like it was no different. Now, something else that I missed out on was a Pokemon Go scavenger hunt, as well as a sticker scavenger hunt, in which you could go visit different things and complete different activities to win some prizes. Now, I know for completing all of the stamps, you got some different stickers, but for the Pokemon Go scavenger hunt, you could get a drink bottle and some other really cool stuff. But each time I went to go check those out, it seemed that they had run out of stock of all of the really good prizes. So I don't know whether for next year, whether they could get more of the good rewards. Now, if you were just going as a spectator, there was also plenty of seating in which you could view any of the different events that were going on the main stage. And finally, for all the events that were at the exhibition hall, we had the Pokémon Center. Now, I've left this till last, as it was probably the thing that disappointed me and probably a lot of other people the most over this entire weekend. Now, initially off the rip, it was probably a really good system that they ran where you could book time slots to get access to the Pokémon Center. This meant that you weren't lining up in lines for hours just hoping to get in. Now, I stayed up to 3 a.m. my time to try and get a good spot for the Pokémon Center, and the website just wasn't working. And eventually, after staying up for far too long, I went to sleep and I was just like, I'll sort it the next day. And then from that point onwards, the best time slot that I could get was around about like 3 in the afternoon on the Thursday. Now, I can really understand the Pokemon Company wanting to give access to everybody and potentially just making it as fair as possible. I think competitors in this instance actually deserve a bit of a priority. Now, due to me being a competitor this year, I might be looking at this a little bit selfishly, but in my own opinion, the Pokemon World Championships is, as a whole, about the competitors. It's about me and it's about everybody else that played the game of their choice to the highest level for the entire year and dedicated all this time to making it to the Pokemon World Championships. And I think that means that in some cases, there should be a little bit of priority. The other problem is that not only did we put in all the work for this event, we already have a lot of the weekend dedicated to playing. Because not only do we have to go get our competitors kits and our badges, which is something that I'll touch on soon, as well as I'm assuming most people that were competitors played at least a majority of Friday, and potentially some people played all of Saturday too. So that's 2 days that some people have blocked out without being able to attend the Pokemon Center at all. So I think that's another reason why there should have been some priority registration. Now, I've seen a couple of ideas getting thrown around that some competitors can just get a catalog and you'd be able to order everything to just go pick it up from the Pokemon Center Center that weekend, and I really like that idea. What was the realistic look at the Pokemon Center this year? The time slots were really good. The morning slots, there were people lining up out the front of the Pokemon Center many hours before their time slots actually began. There wasn't really like any direction of how people should line up. People would hold up a sign with a time on it and they would make just lines. But for my slot, especially on Thursday, which was in the afternoon at 3:15, I was able to just walk up to the lady that was coordinating everything. She asked what my time slot was. I said it's 3:15. She said go up, you scanned your little ticket, and off we go. And I'm like, okay, cool, this is really great. We'll be able to just go up, go straight into the Pokemon Center. This was super breezy. There's a lot of people lining up out the front. This must be chill. It wasn't super chill. You walk up into a very hot car park and you get like positioned into a pen full of people that are all in your exact same time slot, and you end up having to wait there for around about like 45 minutes. So you're standing in this hot car park with a couple of fans that are going on in the entire level, and then there's people handing out water bottles and whatnot coming around every like 15-20 minutes, just dropping them off to people in the crowd. Because I mean, it was like 30 degrees outside. It's a super hot car park, and to have a whole bunch of people all crammed together was a little bit questionable. By the end couple of days, they seemed to figure it out that they kind of zoned people off a little bit. It was noticeably cooler in the car park when you don't have 150 people all squished up together. Instead, you're in like 30 people groups. But eventually they'll come and they'll let you out of your pens, and then you'll make your way upstairs, and you'll be met with another line in which you just chill in this zigzag formation. They'll hand out the black bags for you to put your goodies in when you actually get into the Pokemon Center. So you may be waiting around for like 10 to 15 minutes to actually get into the center once you made it upstairs. And then we finally made it into the Pokemon Center. And oh my goodness, like the general aesthetic of the Pokemon Center was fantastic. It was all cordoned off into different biomes, which I thought was really cool. You had like, you initially walked into like a coral water biome, then you made it into like a jungle area, and then there was like a tropical section, and then there was like an industrial area as well. So it was a really nice experience just to go through the entire Pokemon Center. Now walking through, they had showcases of all the merchandise that you could get. There was all the exclusive stuff. The merchandise looked really incredible. The themed exclusive stuff for this year looked ridiculously cool. There was a fantastic Alolan Exeggutor. My favorite was the Pikachu and Munchlax stuff, and then there was just some other Honolulu World Championships themed Pikachu merch. And as per usual, there was some nice exclusive plushies as well. I went in on Thursday, which I'm pretty sure Wednesday was the first day the Pokemon Center was open, so it was the second day, and I pretty much didn't get anything exclusive. I got one more of the Pikachu plushies. I got a little Azumarill plushie, which I got for my girlfriend, and I was able to get one of the Honolulu coin damage and dice cases. So overall, that wasn't the best. I picked up some really cool stuff. I picked up some cool things that weren't exclusive, like I got my boy Jirachi, I got a little plushie of. But besides that, there wasn't really anything too much. Like the ukuleles, you didn't even have a chance at getting. The skateboards, no chance whatsoever. So that was a little bit of a disappointment. So overall, if you didn't get like the first slot, or maybe like the first 3 slots of the day, chances are you're probably out of luck. It seemed that they restocked everything each couple of days. I did get a second slot, which was on Sunday morning. We're at 9:30. We might actually have a chance of getting some of the exclusive stuff, which I only wanted the Munchlax and Pikachu deck box sleeves, playmat, and the coin case, and they had none of that stuff. When you walked in on Sunday, it was pretty much barren for any of the really cool exclusive stuff. The only other thing that I really wanted to get was this Comfy Lay plushie, which, I mean, the moment I walked in the door, they were right on the left, so I was like super stoked with that. I didn't get a chance to get one of these on the first day. I saw a lot of people walking around with them, and I was like, no, please, Comfy, my flower selecting goat, I need him. So I was happy to get that. A lady had a bag. She walked up to my friend and I, and she handed out a deck box, which was the exclusive Pikachu Honolulu one, which, yeah, she walked up to us. She had a bag full of the exclusive deck boxes, and she just handed it to us. It's crazy that she was just out here able to assume that anybody was going to take them, and she was correct. We were not going to say no to the exclusive Pikachu deck box. It's ridiculous the amount of FOMO that was there, that she just knew anybody would just buy it if she handed it to them. So yeah, overall, it wasn't a fantastic experience. In the 2 time slots that I got one thing that I really wanted, which was the Comfy Lay, which was a bit of a letdown. So the actual Pokemon Center was just, yeah, it wasn't great. The fact that just anybody could get a slot, you didn't have to be a spectator competitor, like anybody could get a slot, meant that it was absolute chaos. Now, I was not directly attached to the Pokemon Center. I did also want to talk about the little black market they have running down at the waterfront. So you line up at the bottom of the stairs down by the waterfront to go up into the Pokemon Center, and you're along an entire walkway which were lined with just people selling random Pokemon goods, which as a whole was rather scummy, because you would walk along and you would see like all of the exclusive stuff that you really wanted, and people had just gone in and scalped it, and then they were now flipping it for like double, triple the price. So that did like feel really bad. There were also some really cool vendors that had like exclusive stuff from Southeast Asian events. So there was some really cool mats, and there were also a lot of Japanese and Chinese vendors that were selling exclusive stuff from their countries. So probably around about like 50% of all of the stuff that was being sold down there, I thought was really cool to have so many different parts of the world come together and then just be like trading and selling all of the cool exclusive stuff from different parts of the world. But then it did put a real dampener on it, the fact that it was predominantly just filled with people that had gone into the Pokemon Center, bought a whole bunch of limited stuff, and then now we're just going to perch up for the entire day and flip that stuff to make a profit. So that's why it kind of sucks that I ended up having to pick up my Pikachu and Munchlax sleeves from one of the vendors down there. This was the only way that I could get my hands on them, which was really, really cringe. So these cost me like $15 US. So around about double what the price was in the Pokemon Center. I also picked up the Pikachu and Munchlax deck box, which also cost me probably close to, I think this was like $45.50, which is around about like 2 to 3 times what they were going for on the Pokemon Center. And finally, I picked up the playmat, which, I mean, this was the main thing that I wanted from the entire Pokemon Center. It looks absolutely freaking incredible. I can't wait to play some games on this. So I had to end up paying $60 USD to get my hands on this playmat, which I think is 3 times the price of what it cost in the center. So yeah, I think overall that just left a really sour taste in my mouth, that I literally wanted 4 things from the entire weekend from the Pokemon Center until I found out they had the comfy lay. But yeah, the fact that the only way that I could get the 4 items that I wanted was by paying well over market price for them, literally outside the venue that they were being sold at, did feel really bad. So overall, I'm going to give the Pokemon Center its own ranking. I don't want it to affect the ranking of the other events that were actually at the venue or in the area at all. I'm going to give the Pokemon Center 2 out of 5 stars. I'm sure there's a lot of people that did leave very, very happy, and I know as the weekend went forward, they got stricter with the rules of how many different things you could buy or what was allocated to each group, something that really should have been implemented early on. So I give them props for that, but they probably were a little bit too late with it. They definitely need to go back to the think tank for the 2025 World Championships. But yeah, with the Pokemon Center out of the way, generally the activities, I mean, I can't really fault them. Maybe a 4.5. I'm going to give them a 4.5 out of 5 stars, because it was just like, if I was going there as a spectator, I would have had the absolute best time. Now, before we jump into the tournament breakdown, I did want to go through the competitor kit and just run through what we got as a competitor this year. All right, kicking us off, we have the competitors promo, which is the Paradise Resort card. Really impressive looking card. The artwork on it is beautiful. Every single year you get a little pack of the promos, so really cool to have one of these. We also got one of the exclusive little snorkeling Pikachus, which I think is a really cool, well-designed plushie. It will go nicely with some of the ones that I picked up in Japan when I went in 2019. Now, each year you get a playmat as well. So this year the playmat was the Snorkeling Pikachu Competitors mat. It looks really clean. I like it a lot. It also does match the same design as what you get on the sleeves and the double deck box, which you also get every single year. So very happy with those. They look very clean. There was also kind of just like a little filler thing, which was the screen cleaner. On the back it does have the little chart for the typings. We did actually get a incredible cap. Really impressed with this. The design on it, I think, looks absolutely stunning. It's got a cork finish along the brim. And yeah, I think it's like really strong for just like a hat. You do also get this little pin which says competitor on it, and it's got the snorkeling Pikachu on it as well. The competitor pass and lanyard, which is cool that it's got your name on it at the top as well. So it's just a nice little thing that personalized to you to say, hey, I went to that event. There is also this bag which I kind of griefed myself a little bit with. Thought that it held Nintendo Switch games because the little pockets in there look like you could fit a Switch game in there. But apparently, like, they're actually there for pins. So they've got these little, like, pin pockets on each side. I'm not too sure what these zips are actually for then. I don't know whether I'll find a use for this. But yeah, so I thought it was a Switch case. I was like, that's lit. It's got Switch games. No, you can put pins in there. But if you like pins, then you'd be pretty chuffed with this, I reckon. Definitely not mind-blowing for me personally. Then you also get this really nice shirt. It looks really nice. It's got the Pikachu Honolulu logo on the front. I wasn't expecting the shirt to be this kind of material, else I probably would have worn it over the weekend with it being so hot. But yeah, really happy with the shirt. And then finally, the thing that I was most excited for was the backpack. Now, everybody that I know, locals that's been to Worlds, they tote around their Worlds backpacks. So the thing that I was probably the most keen on was getting one of these. So it's pretty cool that I can now use this as my backpack to travel to different events, which I like. I like that a lot. So yeah, overall, the World's Competitor Kit had a lot of really good stuff in it, and I personally can't complain. I know that there's, like, last year, the Yokohama was probably the best one that they've had so far. I have to give this at least a 4 out of 5 stars. Just having a fantastic aesthetic. I really like the colorful vibe. Me personally, going to my first Worlds and getting that as my first competitor kit, I am definitely not too upset. With the competitors kit out of the way, let's move on to the actual tournament itself. I'm only going to be able to view this from a TCG player's perspective, as obviously I didn't play any of the other games. So I will say that the seating was really good. The table space was fantastic. I reckon 75%, if not more, of the venue, you had, like, I don't know, you had a lot of space. You had a lot of space to either side and back and forth. I did play one round, which I think was what my round 3, where I was like chilling in the bin, where I went down to some of the like lower tables that you had like space side to side, but like the width of the table wasn't too great. So, but like you make do. I've definitely played at tournaments with less space. Overall, the tournament did run very smoothly. Like, we had one less round than what we had previous seasons, which is what it's going to be going into the future for our tournaments. So the end time wasn't too late. Obviously, I want to give a massive shout out to the judging staff and the head judge especially. I did have to call a judge on my opponent when my opponent ended up doing some illegal actions. But my opponent did end up wanting to appeal to the head judge, and the head judge came over. He was really chill, did a very good job, and I could hear in his earpiece all of the people that needed him, and he was just running around all day. So very big thanks to them. But yeah, overall I give it a 5 out of 5 stars. I played in regionals where we finished up at like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and I've played at tournaments where we have had like 0 space on tables. It was a really well run tournament. Now I'll quickly interject here with my own personal experience from the weekend. It isn't going to be part of like the review as a whole, obviously, because it's just how I went. For my first World Championships, I didn't get the best result, but it was like an amazing learning experience for me. Definitely, I can take away a lot of like deck choice decisions. I played a deck that probably felt way too safe, definitely over-teching, expecting some people to be playing different things, but I really could have just gone for my original build. Would have definitely helped me a lot during the weekend. And then it was also a good learning experience as to myself personally, what kind of like practice and testing I need to be at my best during a tournament with such high stakes. So even though like my results weren't fantastic, I could definitely see where I just needed to be putting more work into. I want to also do a big shout out to all of my opponents. Like, every single person that I played was really fantastic. It was such a unique experience. I didn't play a single other Australian, so everybody that I talked to was from a completely different part of the world, and to be able to be in that environment where every single match is like such a unique experience was absolutely incredible. But I was like, no matter what, I'm going to play all of my rounds, and I'm so glad that I did, because some of my opponents later on in the day were really fantastic. And I know for me personally, if I dropped out instead of playing my entire 8 rounds, not only would I have left feeling way more disappointed in myself, but it made me feel like I'd gained so much by just playing some incredible people. So really stoked with the outcome as a whole, regardless of what the actual scoreboard says. So the last thing that I want to touch on for this review is going to be the production of the entire weekend. And this is probably one of the things that is the most crucial for the World Championships. It's the biggest Pokemon event of the year, and you expect it to be absolutely incredible. And I will say that this year it was stunning. The main thing that I really want to touch on is, at least for the TCG, I'm not too sure about the changes for some of the other games, but the stream graphics for this year were absolutely phenomenal. It seems like a logistical nightmare to be able to run that stream with the amount of detail that they had for this event. So to say that I am nothing but impressed. They had wonderful graphics available to anybody that was jumping in to watch, and I think for people that don't know the TCG that well or are just starting out, this stream was like a really engaging and informative way of viewing the Pokemon trading card game that I honestly really hope that they continue throughout the rest of this next season. But yeah, the team that does the graphics and the behind the scenes for all of the streams, they did an absolutely phenomenal job. For the Pokemon World Championships, there's always the opening ceremony. I'm so glad that we left really early so that we could get fantastic seats. We were right in front of the main stage, only like 3 rows from the front. There was a little bit of a technical issue at the start. Even just sitting there waiting for the actual opening ceremony to start, playing through like every single one of the Pokemon opening theme songs. I don't know, with like Pokemon being such a like personal and like prevalent thing in my life, and obviously now like Pokemon is my job, which is really crazy to think, like to be in a space where it's just everybody is sharing the same enjoyment of something that you love, and you know, something that you've worked very hard for the entire year, and just to be in a space where you're like, if my 12-year-old self knew like where I'd be right now, like he would not believe it. And I think that was definitely something that I wasn't like prepared for at that moment. So overall, the opening ceremony was like fantastic. The songs that they were singing were sick. Sick time. Well, it was just like a really impactful experience for me. I'm very impressed. On the back end of the opening ceremony, there's obviously the closing ceremony. It was really cool to be in person to watch the new releases as they began to get dropped for the first time around the world.
Next, we'd like to share some news about the Pokemon trading card game.
Oh my god, window cards! Let's go.
Yes! Oh! Woo! Fresh. Oh! Yes! Trade! Yes! Woo! Rocket. Let him cook. Let him cook. As a whole, the production, easily 5 out of 5 stars, was an incredible thing for people at home or at the venue to be witnessing over the entire weekend. So massive props to Pokemon on that. So in summary, the Pokemon 2024 World Championships was a fantastic event. I would say it's probably the best event that I've ever attended. Due to this being my first ever Worlds, it's probably a little bit biased. So for my final thoughts, I just want to say thank you, obviously, to Pokemon, as they obviously run this event. We wouldn't be able to experience this kind of event if it wasn't for the actual company that runs it. I also want to do another shout out to the staff yet again that ran the event, because it was all super smooth. And then I also want to do a big thanks to you know, any of you guys that have supported me. If I didn't have my Pokemon card business and I didn't make videos and have other people support, I probably never would have even picked up the Pokemon trading card game to begin with. So massive thanks to everybody that has kickstarted this entire experience. Honestly, I'm not too excited about Anaheim. With the way the season structure is this year, Anaheim is most likely not going to be on the cards for me. Probably going to be keen for San Francisco. It's not going to stop me playing the game. I'm going to go to every regionals, but yeah, we'll see how the next season works out. But who knows? Maybe things change up and I will be seeing you in Anaheim 2025.